All right, now let's talk about work.
Yeah.
Let's talk about staff. And let's talk about when it is the right time to fire someone. When is the right time to fire someone?
When they annoy me.
When they annoy
No,
you.
I'm just kidding.
Right.
I'm just kidding.
Look, if you put them on,
we're just telling this to an HR lawyer. So we
if you put them on a performance improvement plan,
Sure.
what's commonly known in the industry as a PIP, and typically PIPs run 60, 90 days, and you have, by the point you've put them on a program to quote unquote rehabilitate them in the workplace in terms of performance, you have somebody dedicated, typically their manager, to checking in with them, and it's really hands-on, high touch. If they can't get their shit together by the time a PIP is done, in a lot of cases, I mean, the next logical step is going to be termination, right?
So spoken like a true lawyer. So
But there are other instances where it's not about performance. It's about being, quote unquote, a cancer in the workplace, right? And there it really becomes a matter of evaluating the hard facts, getting feedback from other people on the effect this person is having in the workplace, and also just your own feel as a manager for what's happening in the workplace.
So obviously, you're a lawyer and you're in that line of work. So obviously you're looking at it from from one point of view.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you bringing up, if you're a manager in a non-legal setting, what are the effects? So cancer, being a cancer, is a big one. You've seen certain members of the team that have checked out, and because they're disgruntled, they want other people to feel how unhappy they are and how bad the
Misery loves
company is.
company, right?
I find it in my practice, I'm dealing a lot more with that kind of situation with my corporate clients, where somebody, and what do they call it, a poisoned work environment.
Yeah.
And it can have a material effect on one person, can
They're
affect
just
not just their
toxic,
immediate department, depending upon the physical location of people, can really, really have a material effect on people's mental health.
Oh, I can believe that.
It's not a joke, right? And so, there's the legal aspect to it. There's also the issue around, once again, are they rehabilitatable? Even as a cancer in the workplace.
Do you think some people want to get fired?
Sure. Some
Absolutely.
people act up and they're looking for a package.
Depending on how long they've been there,
Right?
Yeah.
They're looking for a package.
Like, it seems like there's a few staff members that I've witnessed over the years where, in my opinion, they were kind of unrealistic with what they expected, right? A lot of people want a free ride. They feel entitled that they should be making money even if they aren't putting in any effort. Company gets upset. They start putting pressure on this person, and this person starts blaming the company, blaming the manager, blaming everyone except themselves, right? So that's a clear one when you know that, okay, this person's, it's time for this person to move on. Now, how about other things where they're not really disturbing others, but they're just not putting in the effort, right? Let's talk about two different scenarios. One is, let's talk about one where they're not putting in the effort, they don't really care, but they're not hurting anyone else.
Right.
And then we'll talk about the situation where they're trying, they have a good attitude, but just not producing. All right. So we'll talk about that at the end. So in terms of the person with a bad attitude, not really trying, they're coasting, they're not hurting anyone or bothering anyone, they're not poisoning the environment, but they just don't seem like they're engaged, and it's causing the manager to be frustrated. What happens in that case?
I think you have to have a conversation with them. And this is part of the reason I've taken a break from people managing. So you could have somebody who, they're really nice, everybody likes them, they're involved in all the social stuff that goes on in the organization, all that stuff, but they're just terrible at their job. So, and this is where regular, open, honest communication comes into play. Like, having regular check-ins with them to see like where their head is, laying it out to them on, and this is where you need to have goals and specific, SMART goals, things that you're measuring them by, to demonstrate to them, like, these are the requirements of the job, here's what is expected of you, and here's where you're falling short. And it could be a situation where maybe they don't even like the job, but they're afraid to quit, or they're afraid to You know, I mean, times are hard right now.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be out of a job. So then you start to look like, what are your career aspirations? Where do you want to go? What interests you? And maybe that job that they're in isn't right for them. Doesn't mean that they're a bad person or they're, you know, a bad employee. It could be somebody who fits the culture of the company, but they're just in the wrong job. So maybe you look to move them into an area that more aligns with their skill sets and their interests so that they're successful.
Okay. Now, how about the scenario where you spoke about when they have a good attitude, they're involved in the company, you know, events and everything, but the particular job that they need to be doing, they're not really good at. How about the scenario where they have a bad attitude, but they aren't infecting, they're not cancerous, they're not infecting others?
How can they have a bad attitude and not infect?
They just hide, you know, they just coast. They don't really go and tell how bad the company is to everyone else.
To Keisha's point, regardless of what category of employee we're talking about, first or second, made an excellent point. If you're not a formal PIP, but if you're a good manager managing to objective metrics, that's going to tell the picture. Because if a person is, you know, not the gung-ho type, is quiet, but hitting their metrics.
What do I care?
That's
exactly.
What you want, right?
Exactly.
As long as it doesn't veer, as long as the interpersonal doesn't veer into the cancer.
But what happens in the situation where they're not hitting their metrics?
That's what I'm talking about. The metrics are the metrics, right?
Yeah.
They're objective, and you'd be surprised when people are measured against objective metrics, how much they will buy in. There's not much of an argument unless they don't agree with what they're being measured by.
Right. Well, you know what? I've seen a segment of the population, they feel entitled that it doesn't matter how much or how little or how, you know, they don't. The company does not make any money from the person, right? So I'm the bad worker. The company doesn't make any money from me, but I still entitled for my paycheck, right?
Right.
So my brother actually is working for one of the major banks, and he has a colleague that's basically doesn't do anything all day, every day, like at all.
They're not meeting their metrics either.
Years, like 10, 20 years, right? And this person feels unfireable, right? And they just don't care. And
it's a large enough organization. This was another point I was going to make. A lot of how you're going to deal with this person depends on the size of organization you have. In smaller organizations where there's nowhere to hide, that malperformer, I'll call them, it comes out a lot sooner. But in a bank, in a large national, international company, there's a lot of people that can just coast and hide.
But I think it still comes back down to management.
Yes. Absolutely.
It comes down to their manager.
Doesn't matter the size. If that person's manager is doing their job.
No, I think certain types of companies, and if you work there long enough,
yes,
they feel like, you know what, you can't fire me.
That's
you know
right.
I mean? Because I've been here, and you know.
Well, the package will be the package is not worth giving the person 18, 19, 20 months of severance.
But is that not better than having them sit in that desk for the next 10 years? And do nothing.
If they're being cancerous and causing a poison work environment, I would say absolutely. If they're the type that's coasting and doing their job.
Let's talk about one more thing. It's not 100% related to when, you know, knowing when to fire someone, but let's talk about a situation where there is this could be the same type of person where they're working, but they're not working, right? And then they feel entitled that, hey, I have this job, you have to pay me, and you know, you can't fire me. And they're the same type of people that think that they get promotions based on seniority, right?
And there's some who do.
And I really, like, it makes me pretty upset where, you know, for example, someone leaves the company, right? And say it's a cubicle environment, and the person that was sitting next to the window, for example, you know, because maybe they were the best employee amongst the team, and they're sitting by the window. Everyone else is like, you know, cubicle, and this is like half cubicle, like, you know, the one side is kind of has a nice view. So basically there would be a few people that would say, I'm entitled to that seat because I came here earlier than anyone else, right? So how do you handle that kind of mindset where people feel entitled because they've been there longer, when I'm all about who's contributed the most?
I'll tell you what, if that comes up in a non-union environment, That's a great teaching moment
Mm-hmm.
to communicate to people. It's not about how long your ass has been here.
Yeah.
It's about what you are contributing to the company.
Yeah.
But then you have to be willing to live with that decision. Right?
Yeah, and I think that's the right decision. Like, it should be based on, even if someone came in 3 months ago, they could have contributed more than someone there 3 years ago. You know what I mean? And it was funny because my brother recently got a promotion in this large bank, and he would tell me stories about how annoying this person is because he doesn't do anything all day, and everyone does all the work that he's supposed to do. Where when he got promoted, this other person was upset. He thought he was supposed to be promoted because he was there for like 10 or 20 years, right? So it's like,
So then they should stop doing the work for this person. I mean, listening, I'm like, and I remember being in organizations where, the window seat and the real estate in the office was, you get the prime real estate. This is why I don't miss being in an office, because honestly, but I get it. When it comes to seating arrangements, again, people, like, they're adults. So if you say these are the how window seats are selected, it could be based on seniority. It could be based on performance. Like, if that is laid out from the beginning, then if you're upset about it, there's not really an argument. But if it's being given out based on favoritism, or you think it's favoritism because you don't know the metrics that is being used to determine who sits where and who gets what, then you're going to have people who are going to be upset.
That's right.
So it all, again, to me, it goes back to management and their ability to communicate and their ability to be transparent with people. Because if people know how they're being measured, what is the requirement, and these are the markers, and if you're not meeting it, then you're not going to get a raise, or you're not going to get the promotion, or you're not going to, or you could potentially lose your job, then I don't think they have much of an argument. But usually people get upset because they don't know the measurement.
That's right. And then the default is typically, it's got to be favoritism.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.